The DRZ400S 3x3 mod as described on Thumper Talk. First, obtain the parts to do the modification: the jet kit, the pilot jet, the main jet, the fuel screw, the float bowl screws. Step 1. Take the seat off. There are only 2 bolts to do this. Step 2. Remove the side panel and the air filter. Tape off the hole going to the carburetor to keep debris out of the carb. Now move the computer to the side so we can make the 3x3 hole in the airbox. I am using a 2-inch hole saw. Drill the first hole, widen the stock hole, measure for the third hole. Mark the sides and placement for the final hole. Now drill the final hole. Now we have to cut the pieces away between the holes. I am using a utility knife blade and a torch to melt them out. Clean up the edges with the utility knife, then sand with a drum sander to make it smooth. To get a real clean edge, once sanding is done, cut away the burr from the edges with a razor blade. Finally, let's dress up the hole. To do this, we'll use a length of vacuum hose, split it down the middle, and wrap it around the edge of the plastic in the hole. Make sure you leave it a couple inches long to assure a tight fit. Now vacuum all the plastic bits out of the airbox so as not to clog your air filter. Put your computer back in place and your hole is done. Now we need to remove the gas tank to get to the carburetor. There are 4 bolts, 1 on either side, 2 under the seat, and don't forget the fuel line. To give us more working room to get the carb out, we are going to loosen the frame that goes under the seat and slide it back about a 1/2 inch. Now we'll get the carburetor ready to move. First we'll remove the wire that goes to the side of the carburetor. The zip tie is removable, so do not cut it. Loosen both throttle cables and remove them from the cable guides. To finally remove the carburetor, loosen the clamp in the rear and the front, slide them back out of the way, and then there's a lot of wiggling to get it out. It will take a couple minutes. Once the carburetor is out, we'll do the jet kit and the jets. To start off, we'll drain the fuel out of the carburetor. We'll start with the top of the carburetor. On a clean surface, remove the top and lay the pieces down in order as you took them out so you'll be able to assemble the carburetor easily. Carefully loosen the boot around the top of the carburetor and pull the slide out. There's a small O-ring on the top of the carburetor. Do not lose this O-ring. Now we will remove the pin. With the parallel needle nose, reach down in the slide and pull the clip out. There will be a spring attached to it, and the needle should stay in the carburetor. Then pull the needle out. Be careful not to drop any of the spacers or washers so you know what order to put them back in. Get your new pin out of your jet kit and get the spacers off the old pin and ready to assemble back into the slide. Now my spacers are in order, and I'm going to install the clip on the new pin in the 4th position. Now we will reassemble the pin. Take your new pin and put the spacer underneath the clip and a washer underneath the spacer. Put a washer on top of the clip and put it back into the slide. Now we will install the cap that holds the pin in place. Make sure the spring is still on the end of the cap. With your needle nose, push it in until it clicks. When you're done, you should be able to push on the needle and have a little spring to it. Install the slide back into the carburetor by lining it up. It'll go in about halfway, then reach inside the hole of the carburetor and drop the pin down the hole, and it'll fall into place. Tuck the diaphragm back in the groove on the top of the carburetor. Add the dead spot O-ring, the spring for the diaphragm, and the top of the carburetor and tighten it down. The slide should move freely in the carburetor. Now to change the jets on the carburetor. First we need to remove the float bowl. The screws on the float bowl are very hard to undo. Use a pair of vice grips to loosen them and then take them out with a screwdriver. There are 2 jets we'll be replacing, the main jet on the top and the pilot jet down to the side. To remove the main jet, put a wrench on the shaft that's holding the jet and a screwdriver to remove the jet itself. Make sure the shaft stays tight. Put the new jet in the same spot the original came from. For me, I am using a 140 at sea level. Yours will vary depending on altitude. Now we'll change the pilot jet. Unscrew it with a screwdriver and add the new jet. I am using a number 25. Reinstall the float bowl using the new Allen head screws. This will allow you to easily remove the float bowl for future jet changes. Now we will drill out the plug covering the fuel mixture screw. Use the drill bit provided in the jet kit. Now we need to remove the plug covering the fuel mixture screw. Using the screw in the jet kit, screw it in tightly into the hole. Then get a pair of vice grips and wiggle it out as to pull the plug out. Simply loosen the fuel mixture screw with a screwdriver, then turn it upside down to get the screw out. Take the spring and the washers and put it on your new extended fuel mixture screw exactly how it was on the stock screw. Now put the extended mixture screw into the carburetor. Screw it all the way in. You'll see it poke out on the inside of the carburetor. Once it's all the way in, bring it back out 2.5 turns. Now we are done. We just need to put everything back. We'll start by reinstalling the carburetor. Reinstall the throttle positioning wire and clean up the wires and tuck them back in. Reinstall your throttle cables. Align the frame and put the bolt back in and tighten it. Remove the tape and put your air filter back in. Put your gas tank back on and tighten the 4 bolts that hold it in place. Hook the fuel line and the vacuum line back up to the petcock valve. Put the side cover back on. Put the seat back on. You are now done and will need to adjust your fuel mixture screw.